Welcome, everybody. My name is Mike Cirillo, and tonight we're starting with a bang. We have our episode 3 of our mirror series tonight for Turn Zero. We are also joined by the illustrious Nema Ashjaee with us here. You probably have seen him all over Facebook and Discord as the guy who gets every rule right and tells you why you're wrong. Also happens to be a pretty good player in his own right. Nema started out with some Rebels, has played some clones a little bit, so we thought he'd be a fantastic guest to bring on for our clone mirror. So, just a reminder, we are going to have this little workshop set up on the main Discord under Turn Zero and Turn Zero images this week so that we can bring some of the more discussion into that as well. But, Nema, why don't you dive right in for us and get us started with the blue list that you brought for us?
Yeah, sure. So I thought it'd be interesting to try to build a list with this new commander that we have, Anakin Skywalker. I thought it might be interesting to pair him up with Padme. Both thematically, I thought it'd be awesome. But they also have some abilities that I thought might be fun to play off of. They both have Exemplar. They could both have Reliable. So you're buffing the entire army in a few different ways. So that was the idea there. And playing Rebels, I have a lot of experience with Luke Skywalker. So that a fast-moving Force user with a really nice melee attack, but generally hasn't been, at least especially recently, hasn't been able to be backed up by a nice gun line. So I thought translating some of the skills there into a Republic list with a really nice gun line to back him up, I thought might be interesting. So the rest of the list behind the characters is a few Phase 2 clone troopers with Phase 2 Z6, Overwatch, and targeting scopes to take advantage of the massive number of aim tokens that are going to be generated by the army. A naked Phase 1 trooper doing Phase 1 things, again, buffing the rest of the army. And then we have a few ARC troopers, 2 strike teams with the sniper, and then a full unit with Echo, situational awareness, and targeting scopes. So it's situational awareness plus targeting scopes is allowing it to take advantage of any token that's being thrown at it. It's a really expensive unit. It's going to be hitting really hard. And I want to make sure that it's not suffering too much from attrition. So that's the reason for situational awareness there. And also making sure that it can get all the hits that it needs with targeting scopes, taking full advantage of the aim tokens it's going to get. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And Keegan, do you want to take us through the red player list that we're going to run up against it?
Yeah, I didn't notice this when we were going over show notes, but I just realized that this is giving me PTSD because as a local to Nema, I have a ton of experience getting my ass kicked by his Luke shenanigans. So if that theory of translation holds true, his Anakin power is going to be pretty strong. But so today for red player, we're countering with a 9 activation, fully 800 point list. I am not a clone player. I think we mentioned that before, but this looks pretty standard for an Obi-Wan list to me. Obi-Wan with stapled force push, the sexy new force barrier on him, aggressive tactics and situational awareness for all that crit canceling goodness, a naked R2 and a naked Phase 1 to do what naked R2s and naked Phase 1s do, 3 Phase 2 clones, 2 with Z6s, 1 with 5s, all with Overwatch, and some targeting scopes thrown in on 5s. And then a similar complement of ARC troopers, 2 strike teams, and 1 fully loaded Echo, but just with Overwatch in the training slot.
Yeah, we promised you guys a mirror, and we have talked to pretty well-matched lists with each other here.
You guys kept on saying Phase 1 troopers. I thought they were called batteries.
Yeah, they're Phase 1
More or
batteries.
less,
Yeah. So we have brought another homemade map with us tonight, this time courtesy of our very own Nick Bodner. So Nick, why don't you walk us through, the terrain that's on the map and some of the layout and what you thought about it when you set it up?
Sure. So what we have here is a volcanic type planet. Half the stuff is 3D printed. All of the STLs are from Imperial Terrain. I have a couple home printers, so I printed and painted all of it. The lava rocks you see are all made out of foam, PVA glue and paint. I got a little creative with this one. It's a pretty standard layout. All of the larger buildings and larger rock formations are heavy cover. if you see the smaller little chunks of rock, play those as light. The smaller crate piles as light. There's a lot of just cover in general. I like to have a lot of cover all over the tables I put together. Mike's played on a few. This is a fun table. I made it for my locals. They seem to like it a lot. It's a newer one. Haven't played it as much, but definitely looking forward to playing with a layout like this next time I go with it.
And
Question for you on that, Nick. The shield generator in between each of the, I guess, generator portions, is that are you able to walk through that?
It is, yeah, the little sections in between each generator, it's about a little over half of a trooper height, I believe, last time I checked. So it's difficult to go through. It's a real neat piece of terrain. It makes it can be real dynamic at the center of the table. So put it off to the side for this one.
So Keegan, now that we've kind of had the summary for the board, which edge do you think we want to start on? The top that has the generator or the side that doesn't?
Yeah, so I'm my basic cheat when I'm looking at a board edge, no matter what's in my deck, I'm looking at the bottom right corner and that right side. What are the things if I end up in that position that are going to give me advantages or disadvantages? That's even more reinforced knowing what's in this particular battle deck. I've got a lot of right side of the board kind of favorable deployments. In this case, I'm looking at the bottom of the map, so which puts the shield generator in the top right. I think that gives me a lot of good, favorable, well-covered approaches to the center, all the way out to range 4 to 5 from the right side board edge. Lots of good opportunities to work my way in there. Help get Anakin and the troops and their batteries in where they need to be, without taking a lot of direct fire on the way in.
And Nema, before we swap over to you, Nick, I do have a quick question about some of the rocks in the middle. Are any of these rock formations height 2, or are most of them height 1 that we can jump up and over?
The one on the top right, the one that is clearly, like if you look at it from the angled perspective, it's clearly taller. That one is height 2.
Okay, but the rest are height 1?
Yeah, and then,
okay.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you. Nema, does that influence any of your thinking there?
Not really. I think I would echo everything that Keegan just said. So looking at my battle deck, I have major offensive, battle lines, danger close, and advanced positions. So I'm, again, just like Keegan, I'm looking mostly at the sides of the board, the short edges, because I know that all of these, except for battle lines, are going to be using that right edge of the board. So looking at the approaches from the sides, I definitely want to stay with the side that does not have the shield generator. I see 2 large pieces of terrain that I can deploy behind and then move up from and into the terrain that's in the middle of the board. And I have a lot of cover for the approaches, while the opponent doesn't have quite as much. They have a large open area that they have to cross, which will give my gun line some targets and will potentially kind of stiff arm his units a little bit as Anakin or someone is approaching the middle.
Joshua.
I'm going to have to agree here as well. I think the biggest choice actually in this mirror match, I think actually is going to come down to map side. And what I'm looking at here is if you look at the very center terrain piece at about between 4 and 5 o'clock, that one rock piece, it does look like it's tall enough to be line of sight blocking. And I think that's going to be everyone's best approach to the center, given that there is key positions and interceptor transmissions here. Other than battle lines, I think all the deployments favor going bottom on this. So that's going to be my vote.
Nick, you put the map together. Does anything seem to ring untrue there?
No. It's really boring, but I would choose bottom too. When I set the table up, I tried to make what looked like a fair layout for everybody. So, but yeah, it's probably bottom side.
I think you built a perfect map for an Obi-Wan and Anakin showdown, by the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. We're just missing, we have the high ground over there. We're just missing Anakin's on the bottom.
Wait. Don't give Obi the top of the map. That gives him the highest ground. Gives him that height, too.
At least the side with force barrier has the opening, though. That open ground. That might come into play a little bit. So let's go through the battle cards that we have real quick. So for the battle cards that we may actually come across here for tonight, going across the top, we have key positions, intercepted transmissions, and sabotage and moisture evaporators, major offensive, danger close, and advanced positions, and clear conditions, fortified positions, and minefield. So we're going to start with the blue player's first cut. And for that, Nema, you have first say.
Yeah. So I think here I'm mostly looking at the objectives. Everything else is going to be pretty common to both of our lists. I don't care about the conditions too much. So I think what I want to do is kind of gun for sabotage in this game. So my first choice is going to be to kill key positions.
Joshua, do you agree with that? I saw you shaking your head.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think, which is why I thought a lot of this was going to come down to map choice. I think the fact that Obi-Wan's going to have to move in order to either eliminate a unit or to tap one of his maps. And he doesn't seem to do that as well as, let's say, Anakin or Padme would. I think that's going to put them on their back heel. So cutting towards Sab is what I would do as blue.
Nick.
I can't disagree a whole lot there. I'm not cutting major offensive. It's like kind of perfect with this setup here. Cut key positions, go for sabotage and moisture evaporators as blue player.
Can you fathom a hot take out of this, Keegan?
I'm trying hard. I generally think that going towards Sab is probably the safe choice. Sab's nice and familiar. I think there's some extra firepower on the blue side to go after it. I will say, though, I think that extra firepower actually plays in really nicely to all three of the possible objectives here. It's the blue player's deck. It's a well-designed deck. And we have the pleasant view after that map side choice that we don't have battle lines in there, which could have been our most detracting. Being that I'd be pretty comfortable with pretty much anything on there, I'll go with a hot take of I want to take a pass, and I want to see if he's going to try to take advantage of the fact that he is a naked R2, which is purely going to be there to score that extra victory point, whereas my R2 is laden down and definitely a token generator. So if he's going to go after that, then that can make something out interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and pass here.
All right, I am going to go with the majority.
Yep.
Looking to cut towards sabotage. One of the reasons being is, like we talked about, that height 2 building. You can stick a VAP behind that height 2, I guess, rock formation in the corner, and it's going to be really hard to assault that position, especially with the standby shenanigans that clones are able to do with Padme and all the others. So we will cut key positions. So we're currently playing intercept, major offensive, and clear. So for the red player's first choice, Joshua, how does he counter? Or she counter?
So I have to assume that since he's cutting key positions, that key positions and Sab would have been best for, I believe, Anakin. Sab is definitely going to be better for Anakin, and Intercept is going to be more neutral, and I have to assume he's going to want to give himself the best objective possible. I do want to go towards Danger Close, but not yet. The reason being is I don't want to be surprised, because I think Danger Close is going to be the best way for Kenobi to get close, and the worst for VAPs, but I don't want to have the surprise that he accidentally puts me on advanced positions and gives Anakin a good approach. So I'm actually going to cut clear conditions and go for fortified positions. That way, if I need to move closer, since I'm going to have to, being the red player, I'm at least going to have some cover in doing so. So cut clear.
All right, so we are going to cut clear, and we are going to bounce over to Nick while I fix the cards that I have on the table next to me.
I'm not going to cut clear. I'm going to go ahead and cut major offensive now, go to danger close. I think danger close to me looks like probably the worst of the three, and not saying any of them are particularly bad for blue player, but I kind of want to force them into advanced positions if I can, even though I know they're not going to. But we're going to cut major offensive.
Keegan.
I like where Nick's going with this, and I think I'm going to go with him on cut and major offensive as well. Like I mentioned in my first pass, danger close is better for red. One of you guys highlighted Obi-Wan's power on it, but also if red is going to be using that R2 to try to get a victory point and throw this balance off, so it's known that danger close is going to be in there. Recognizing blue's trying to go for sab, this also makes blue have to make a choice, and this could throw a player off balance with, I was going for it, maybe I want to take intercept and I want to clear danger close out. Advanced positions does give Anakin a little bit of a boost, but I think I'd rather have Anakin with having to be tempted to move forward and into that intercept position than I would the other way around. So I'm going to go with Nick.
Nema.
Yeah. So I agree with Joshua that I think ultimately what you want here is danger close for a red player. So I think I would very likely cut clear conditions because I want to get fortified positions because I feel like I could use that to set up some approach vectors for or scoring vectors for R2 as one potential, or set up my guys to have some good shooting angles or shooting positions from.
Yeah, I'm actually going to side with...
It's a tie. This is our first tie going to Mike.
I know, this is fun. When this flipped over, my initial idea was to actually pass entirely, but we are actually going to cut clear conditions to get fortified positions down because I forgot there was that giant opening for red player coming out of the corner. So now we can at least give ourselves some cover and kind of even out that board edge. I really think that both options are super valid here, and it's probably 6 of one hand, half dozen or the other, but we are going to cut clear conditions. So going into the third round for the blue player's second choice, we've got intercept, major offensive, and fortified positions. And Keegan, how's the blue player want to kind of nail his colors to the mast?
It's just so I'm not responsible for the hot take this round, I'm going to go straight to Sab and keep with the theme here.
Any explanation or pretty straightforward?
I think we covered it all on why we want to go to Sab.
Josh?
Intercept is just one of those that's going to be very equal, I think, for both armies, and that's what the red player is going to want here. You want to take that away. Sap can be really strange on Danger Close, and I'm interested to see how this would play out. But yeah, I would cut Intercept here just to give myself the advantage that red has to get a kill.
Nick?
Yeah. Let's go ahead and cut to Sab. Boring, tired, I know, but blue player playing Sabotage and Moisture Evaporators.
Nema?
Yeah, I don't think red has given us any new actionable information with their cut, so I think we continue. In any other matchup or most other matchups, I might be okay with intercept because I actually like playing that with the force user because force push allows you to really mess with the board state and just at end of a turn your opponent is expecting they're going to score and all of a sudden you make a 2-unit swing in one activation. There's a lot of potential there, but I think that potential's there on both sides here, so yeah, I'm cutting toward Sabotage for sure.
Nema's hitting all the greatest hits on lessons I've learned losing to him here. So.
No, I said I was going to be on good behavior, but I guess I'll interject a little bit here. We're going to cut Sabotage, and for the reason that I think is with the way that these two are mirrored, I actually think Obi-Wan and having 5s instead of Anakin and Padme actually gives the Obi-Wan player a significant advantage for holding that middle position. You've got 6 red health saves versus 6 white saves, and Obi-Wan with Force Barrier is a little bit better at keeping his troops around towards the late game. I know Anakin has choke, but if you're talking 2 hits every single turn, that's going to get its points back pretty quickly. So we will cut to Sabotage. So for the red player, we know we've got Sabotage, and do we want to play Major Offensive, Danger Close? Let's get started with Nick.
We do not want to play Major Offensive. We want to play Danger Close. It sets R2 up for a real easy, it could be a real easy secret mission. It's still, in my opinion, like the worst deployment for blue, not by a lot. But it's not as favorable for blue as Major Offensive is. So we're going to cut Major Offensive for Danger Close.
And Keegan, do you agree?
I agree. I also like it's been mentioned a couple of times, but Sab on Danger Close can be a lot of fun. I've had some of my best screwing with the other guy Sab placement shenanigans by there's some really good angles where you can put your Sab that is still advantageous to you, but that range 2 radius blocks out a lot of other positions for them.
Anything to add, Nema?
No, I think we're sticking with going to Danger Close. It looks like that middle area near the blue side is going to be pretty tight to fit two evaporators in a safe position. So you either have to spread them out and try to block off R2's approaches from both sides, and if you do that, you're spreading your army, or you try to bunch them up together on one of the sides, and then you have your army together, so they're all synergizing well, but then you're leaving a flank open for R2. So that's the way that I'm looking at it as red player. That I think I'm giving myself both in terms of distance that has to be covered by R2 and an advantage, but also the opposing army is probably not going to be able to cover both approaches.
I tend to agree there. Joshua, how do you feel?
I agree, and I want to add on kind of what Keegan said, and see if you guys can help me get a rules clarification here. With placing one of your evaporators in red in a position that's going to force blue to place evaporator that's less advantageous for them, are you able to block off evaporators with barricades to where no one could actually touch one in fortified positions? Because Danger Close almost sets up for that opportunity.
Yeah.
I guess theoretically you could.
Right, because you set up objectives first, and then you do the conditions.
And you could just drop off 4 barricades on one. It's not realistic, but let's say if someone places a evaporator very poorly, and this area closes off really quickly.
That is incredibly absurd, but
yeah. That's I thought we'd covered the legal dick moves earlier with the non-participating scoper.
Oh man. Anyways, just food for thought.
No, that's really interesting.
That's cool.
Actually.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I already flipped the card over. I think it was major offensive. So yeah, we are going to cut to Danger Close here. Yeah. So going into the start of deployment, we have Sabotage and Moist Evaporators, Danger Close, and Fortified Positions. So it's actually a nice little play by Red here that I just realized. Danger Close actually kind of takes away that top height to rock formation at the top for the evaporator, because it is going to be within that range 1 of deployment zone. So that's actually a nice little secondary benefit of Danger Close, as well as robbing the blue player of that really, really safe position. So Keegan, going into deployment, assuming both players deploy relatively well, who do you think has the advantage?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I think for the reason you just put out there, that blue VAP, if they use the thin area that they can of that height to hide it, it's going to force the second VAP to get really exposed. I don't know. I'm going to go with the more interesting list, the Anakin Padme list. I think there's some cool tricks and shenanigans, and assuming that we're talking about a player who not only deployed pretty well but also has enough familiarity. And the tiebreaker for me is I've played Nema enough to know that if it's him versus me, he's got this one. So.
And
Nema, how do you feel?
Well, as long as Keegan doesn't have his Pathfinders in his list, I've done better. But I think the blue player with Anakin has the advantage here, mostly from the usual advantages of being blue on VAPs. You're forcing the other player to come to you. They start the game on the back foot, and I think the list in general as well is probably advantaged.
Nick, do you tend to agree?
Mostly. I do think Obi-Wan's defensive capabilities with force barrier are going to make this a close game. But yeah, blue player is set up to succeed here, and red player is going to have to make some good plays to take this one. So.
Yeah, I kind of think that blue player is in a better advantageous position, but I prefer red player's list, and I think it's probably, at least in terms of my own style, it's a little bit stronger. So I think that red really has an opportunity to push through and either tap that VAP or get the activation advantage early. And with having the beefier C3PO and one more phase 2 to worry to deal with the opposing R2, I think they start on the back foot, but I think red does take this in the end. Joshua, how do you feel since I kind of took your spot?
I'm conflicted. I think red actually has a better approach for R2 getting in, but R2 has 2 less health. I think this game actually on the flip side of that, their R2 and C3PO is worth more points. So it's much more risky getting both of them in. And if R2 and 3PO is feeding the army, or feeding Padme, I feel like there's almost less of a chance they're going to score. Man, I don't play with these guys enough. I'm going to go red for that reason. I think it's riskier for blues R2 to score simply because they're worth more points. And I think red has a little bit easier of a path in order to score than blue does. So I'm going to go with red, but I think this is really close, and a lot of it's going to depend on how great your VAPs are placed. So the other thing I wanted to mention on this was all of our opinions from the beginning, we kind of went off the rails as soon as Danger Close was chosen. Concerning battle decks and board choices, is Danger Close, I get why it's in this deck because of R2, but Nemo, is that something you would consider in the future, having Danger Close in there? Because it really negates your board choice because it does everything opposite other than when you're going long ways with it.
Yeah, it's a really weird deployment. I think I actually would reconsider it, just because it's such a curveball. Yeah, so R2 is really the main reason for having it there. It also does potentially give you a spot for Anakin to get in a little bit faster, but you maybe don't always want that because Anakin is a really interesting unit. You're building him up over time with his command cards, so you might not want to get in there too quickly because he hasn't built up to where you want him to be exactly yet by turn 1 or turn 2. And with this list in particular, Anakin and Padme have cards that they want to play on turn 1 in order to get the maximum advantage out of them. So for all those reasons, I would probably not take Danger Close after considering it again.
Yeah, I mean, versus all other factions, it's probably fine. But it's just this mirror match. It seems like it's been a big downer for blue, even though they still have the advantage here.
Right.
So you kind of beat me to the punch there, and one of the things I wanted to ask you is when you were building the battle deck, there's no hemmed in. Hemmed in tends to be pretty good for Republic because you start close and you're almost in that standby bubble at the start. Is that a little bit of a disadvantage with Anakin because he's not really ready to go by the time the battle starts on hemmed in your opinion?
Not necessarily, because you could always just hold him back. Assuming you have a nice line of sight blocking piece that you could hide behind, you can just hold him there and have him threatening the middle and ready to go when you need him to. But yeah, that is a good point.
And then Nick, you've kind of messed around with a little bit of Anakin Padme already, I think, right? Do you think that that's going to be the way to go? I know you had that the proxy game with Josh about a week ago. Is that going to be, you think, the way to go with Anakin and Padme, running them together, or do you split them up?
I really like them together. They have, obviously they were designed, I think, with a lot of synergies in mind. Both, after you play the Anakin's 3-pip, you both have Exemplar. If you have Padme's 3-pip and you choose not to divulge, you can get Reliable. That's a lot of surge tokens for Anakin. That's a lot of surge tokens for your clones. Padme being able to have 2 aims or 2 dodges and then one of the other one each turn if you need it is really good. exemplar. It's all really good. The question is, can you keep Padme alive with that white save? If you expose her, she's gonna die. And I'm looking forward to playing more Anakin just because like the challenge of like managing the suppression and everything. It's real exciting.
Yeah, we really didn't get into the flaw card at all. That was kind of interesting despite all the things that we talked about.
Oh, yeah.
I guess it probably doesn't come up as much about Jedi Mind Trick or any suppressive weapons out there. So Keegan, let's talk about force powers real quick. Anakin has push and choke. He has the option for barrier and a couple others. From a purely outside perspective, as someone who doesn't play Jedi, how do you feel about the force powers that Nema went with?
I do think push and choke are kind of the leading contenders on Anakin. Push, even with the tempted keyword on Anakin to be able to go light and dark with a couple different ones, I think push is just still a mandatory. There's so many dynamic things that can be done with it. Nema alluded to a couple of them with like intercept or any number of other things. That's some power. That's some power. And then to the potential in using tempted, putting choke on there, really good targeted things in there. I think barrier comes in the same pack with him. There's a temptation to put that on there, but I think Anakin's doing more of the work himself. He's a little bit more of a selfish guy, and that's in there for those really cool Anakin Obi-Wan pairings to do that protection.
So speaking of selfish, Josh and Nick decided to stockpile some ARC troopers at the start of this entire fiasco, and we have finally convinced them to give one of these away. So for anybody that has stuck with us for this long through the episode, we are going to do an ARC trooper giveaway. So if you like the video, subscribe to the channel. You'll just be entered into a random drawing. We're going to take one name after a week. So a week from today, so it'll be next Monday. It should be November 2nd. November 9th. We'll do the drawing for the random giveaway, and we'll send you an ARC Trooper. You do have to be in North America because shipping across the seas right now is still ridiculously expensive. So please feel free to like, subscribe, check out some of the other videos, and see if you can win yourself an ARC Trooper. But this has been a really fun episode. Nema, thank you for coming on with us tonight. It was nice to hear some outside perspective from a player who's played some more clones than a lot of us here.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. I'd be happy to come on again anytime.
Absolutely.
We'll probably take you up on that at some point. Hopefully Keegan can swallow his pride.
That's Nema's lessons in humility are some of the best lessons I've had in Legion.
Oh, thank you.
Well, if Tim keeps missing out, there might be a spot.
That's true. Yeah, he's more provisional.
We love you, Tim.
He's just dissing his side piece tonight.
Yeah. He got called in for the main.
But thanks for joining us, everybody. My name is Mike Serlo. I'll be back in 2 weeks to tell the rest of these guys why they're wrong.
I'm Josh Tavera, still waiting on my operative Vader.
I'm Nema of Team Relentless, and I'm glad to be here. Thanks a lot.
I'm Nick. Remember, there's always victory points in the banana stand.
And I'm Keegan, begging you not to let democracy die to thunderous applause and get out and vote today and tomorrow.
Yes, please do go out and vote. Yeah, that's important. Thank you for joining us, everybody. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Enjoy your booze.